During the 3-year plan, we've seen a tremendous outburst of energy when it comes to teaching and the development of the faith. If I were to pick one word, I would have to say it's mobilization, because in the past 2 years, and in the last year particularly, we've seen a tremendous explosion in activity of all kinds at the local level. Some highlights include the youth movement, the Army of Light movement, which during the course of the past year has involved literally hundreds and hundreds of youth all over the country, and in hundreds of projects. And the interesting thing about those projects is that every single one of them was sponsored by a local spiritual assembly. Not one of them was engineered by the National Teaching Committee or any national agency. It was a response to the 3-year plan on the part of local assemblies on the one hand, and of course on the other by the youth themselves, who are energized and committed to teaching. Several months into the plan, the Universal House of Justice released a statement and compilation entitled "Promoting Entry by Troops." And in its cover letter to that statement, the House of Justice made the point that entry by troops is a process that is not going to just happen to us in God's good time due to circumstances outside of our control. What it is a process that we are largely responsible for bringing about. And the House made the point that we can understand this process, we can welcome it, and we must initiate and sustain it. Since that statement came out, a great deal of attention has been paid to it in this country, beginning most significantly with a conference that was spearheaded by the Continental Counselors in Atlanta, Georgia, and since that time has burgeoned into a lot of thinking on the part of local spiritual assemblies and individual Baha'is. And now we can see an emergence of some patterns of activity that really show that sustainable, balanced approach, balanced, albeit energetic approach to the teaching work that's required. And the best example of that right now is at the Louis Gregory Baha'i Institute in South Carolina.
Well, the Louis Gregory Institute is a teaching institute designed to act as a resource for the communities of South Carolina to help empower the individuals and local spiritual assemblies. And the Baha'i faith brings to the peoples of this area not only spiritual teachings, but also how to improve their lives. And so the socio-economic development aspect of the Institute is one that's very important and one that we have looked at from a new perspective to try and make sure that that is being done.
We're trying to see what kinds of methods work best in this climate, in this area, and we want to help the surrounding community. It's a socioeconomic project to help the farmers in the area find alternatives to the way that they've been using their land. Each one of the rays is planted by a different method, so that some of them over the one that the children are doing and the next two are done by a double digging method, where you really loosen the soil deep down and then enrich it, and the roots can go so quickly. Beyond that are hilled up rows, and then over in this arc that you see behind the circle is an African field system called the Machabani system. And so we're trying different kinds of gardening here in this experimental plot.
Okay, I just recently become a Baha'i 4 months ago, and it's a spiritual growth for me. And I love working with crop, because crop is a spiritual growth, because mankind has come from the earth, and it doesn't matter how bad he treats the earth still yields up his fruits to keep mankind prospering through life. And you have to treat the earth just as you treat another human being, because it's related to you in spiritual growth. If you kill the earth, how in the world can mankind grow?
It comes down to rows of corn, and it comes down to tobacco fields and dirt roads, and people whose hearts are pure.
What has been happening in the last few months with the teaching initiative that started about 4 or 5 months ago is that the institutions in the state have collaborated. The Institution of the Learned, the auxiliary board members, the South Carolina Coordinating Committee, we here at the Institute, members of the National Teaching Committee, have all come together and looked at the mandates of the Institute, and then also looked at what the goals of the House of Justice has given us, and then to see what it is that we can do as part of our own mandate, and also as part of the spiritual destiny of this country. And as we all are aware, one of the goals that the House has given us is to greatly increase the human resources of the faith. That means to take the message of Baha'u'llah to all the waiting souls that are surely here and in all parts of the country. And that has been done. The elements that has caused that to work has been that we must work as a unified front. All the institutions have come together and has been founded really on the basis of prayer. Throughout the state, there have been prayer vigils that have been set up in the various regions of the state. Many evenings, teachers have come together and have said 500 removal of difficulties to ask for the assistance of the conquerors on high. And that spiritual preparation, together with the collaboration, has brought the wonderful results that we have experienced during the past few months.
I was just telling someone I don't have adequate words to explain how my heart is bursting with love and goodness, good feelings, you know? I realize that I have a lot of work to do on myself so that I can do what I think God wants me to do. And when that first hit me, and it hit me early on, that I'm here on this earth to deliver a message. It blew my mind because I am so scared and timid in ways. But when I get in the company of Baha'is, it disappears. And I say, God is sending me here. There's a message, you know. But I am too lowly or too humble to deliver this. It couldn't mean me. And I quickly came to understand that it did mean me, that it meant all of us, that on a one-to-one basis, we make a difference. And I feel it so strongly, and I'm just truly blessed to have found the Baha'i family and to be part of it.
There have been other elements that have been important. One is that there is constant unity and positive approach to teaching, knowing that every Baha'i can teach and offer services. We have friends who come and will drive a vehicle. We have friends who will come and cook, you know, who will do clerical work, who will go out into the streets and talk to individuals, who will knock on doors, who will go and visit professionals in their offices, who will go to schools and talk to professionals in those areas. we know that there are souls that are waiting to hear of the faith, not only waiting to hear of the faith, but to accept Baha'u'llah. They are here now. They don't have to be groomed. You know, we don't have to wait for 6 months, for a year. They are ready now. And if we find those friends now and have them to embrace the cause, to allow them to embrace the cause. And when I say allow, but that's very important, because often we can put our own restrictions. You know, we can think, well, you don't know this yet, I haven't told you this yet. When I met you, you didn't really look like you truly understood what was being said. You know, the state of mind that you were in, all of these limitations that are our own personal limitations, we often put on the seekers. And so we have to eliminate those kinds of things, knowing that a person's acceptance of Baha'u'llah is between him and God, and it's a spiritual connection. And with those kinds of attitudes and in an atmosphere of prayer, to go out, whether it's to the rich, whether it's to the poor, whether it's to the middle class, and find those souls that are waiting to become Baha'is now. You know, that is what's important. And that is what has been happening within these last few months.
Standing on the front line, and we're bearing the name of God in this day. We have to claim our destiny. It's too late for us to turn back now. Now just lead the army of the Lord, seize the chalice of immortality. Baha'u'llah has called us the pupil of the eye. Let's go forth and be what he wants us to be. We are the children. We are the children of the King of Kings. We are the ones who shall come no free. And we shall not be put to grief. We are the children. Children of the King of
The community has been overwhelmed by the warm hearts of the folks at the Baha'i Institute in terms of opening its doors and responding to different community leaders and motivational kinds of speakers coming in. And across from the religious faith, I think on last year we had several ministers from the community to attend, so other ministers are now opening their doors and feeling real welcome to come into the Baha'i Institute and see what programs are being offered, which to our community, many of them are to upgrade and develop our community into an outstanding community, which we feel very much a part of. The Baha'i singers have been coming out to the different churches and participating in the Choirs Fest and Choirs Anniversary. We were just together at the Black Male Revival, where the Baha'i singers really did an excellent job in terms of participation, outnumbered any other group that was there. So we're really excited to get them here when we do the Black Male Revival for this particular church and this particular community. I think over the years, I have grown to really respect the Baha'i institution, the Baha'i members. I've learned a lot about the Baha'i faith. I find myself in meetings talking about the Baha'is here in Hemingway and asking, you know, do you know any Baha'is anywhere around? So it's been a personal development for me as well. So I think they're doing an excellent job with bringing programs to the community.
People of the Baha'i faith really have been instrumental in this area in terms of building bridges across communities, exposing people of different life experiences with people that they have historically avoided, and taught and the principles and some of the basic tenets of the Baha'i faith. And we're seeing it not only professed with their mouths, but they are exemplifying it with their lives and with their good deeds in the community. And that's the thing that has impressed a number of people that aren't of the Baha'i faith with their genuineness. And first of all, I was saying, what are they after? And then they find out They just want to help. They really want to help and want to open people's mind, broaden people's thinking and thoughts, and get people to learn to think critically. And I think that has been a very powerful influence. The people are constantly, I know the schools, community groups, when they want to learn about different cultures and people in other parts of the world, they call on the Institute because you can almost bet there's somebody at the Institute that have lived in a certain culture, in a certain country, and could bring some of those insights as to the way of life of people and how they approach life. So that has been of a tremendous resource to the community. And then the literacy education and the Institute's mission to educate and to train and to expose. And that's powerful. And in fact, the amount of programming that comes out of the Institute by such a few members of the staff there, it's just awesome. In fact, I tell Charles all the time, I don't know how you all can do it. You know, you're constantly, but I said, when do you rest? When do you sleep? Because you're constantly doing something every time. And many of us, we stay aware of what's going on by the radio station. We are avid listeners of the Radio Bahai, WLGI 90.9 FM.
Thank you very much for being a part of the Radio Bahai family. And now we have a couple more messages for you and some more good music.
If you would like to know more about the exciting message of the Baha'i faith or the Baha'i meetings near you, call the South Carolina Baha'i Information Service. The toll-free number is 1-800-735-4445.
Always turn your mic off when you get through talking and flip the switch over in this position right here, all right? Same thing for this mic part right here. This is your mic switch for your guests that you have come in and want to do an interview or whatever with them. Here at Radio Bahai, we train our youth volunteers, and a lot of them are from the local areas. These guys that you have seen here, they're from the local area. And we train them to more or less go on air and attract the youth audience, because we feel that youth can talk to youth better than an adult can through the airwaves or either out in the field. And through the music and having them read quotes and prayers over the air, they attract that youth audience with their own little style.
This is our weather machine. We get all our weather is printed up from the National Weather Service on here, and we have to take it off and then we read that over the air. Over here we have our music screening station. We have reel-to-reel, turntable, CD, and cassettes. And this is where we screen all our music to make sure we can play it on Radio Bahai. And here's our production studio. We do all of our producing of our carts and our spots and things about changes of Radio Bahai, different music beds for some of our readings that we do on air, all sorts of things. This song is going out to my very good friend Mariah Fairley, who's here visiting us from Tanzania.
20 years ago, many Baha'is from different parts of the country, as well as those from South Carolina, came into these communities and taught the faith. A large number of people accepted it, largely people from the African American community. They were very responsive, their souls were open, they listened and they said, yes, this is true, and they accepted. South Carolina, as you may know, is a very impoverished state. This spot where the Institute is located historically was like the Klan headquarters. It's a place where the mortality rate is very high. Matter of fact, this very county is the highest in South Carolina, and South Carolina is the worst in the United States. So it was in this kind of setting that the Institute and the radio, God chose to place his institution in this setting. At that time, the ideas of the Baha'i faith, the idea of unity, the idea of people of different races coming together was something that was just unheard of, that was unacceptable, that many people received great suffering and sacrifices and had to sacrifice a great deal during that period because of the prejudice that exists. Today, you know, in 1995, a lot has changed. The climate has changed. Perhaps because of the suffering that's in the world, because of perhaps what God's plan has been in the world, what he's done to prepare people for the hearts, to prepare their hearts for his message. All of these things have occurred, and with that, the receptivity has changed. Today, during this teaching initiative that we have just had, we have African American males going to homes, and there being only white females there. And they have listened to the faith without a feeling of fear and have shown respect and also have shown a responsiveness to the teachings of the faith. A great deal of this has been due to the work that the radio station has done over the past 10 years. It has prepared the hearts by having prayers going out over the air continuously, having quotations from the writings to go out to prepare the hearts for the people, and then to give the tenets and teachings of the faith. So when one goes out and starts talking about the Baha'i faith, they will say, oh yes, we know about the Baha'i faith, we've heard some things on the radio, and so they're ready to listen. So the receptiveness of them has changed, you know, has changed. And we are feeling the fruit of that. A few weeks ago, there was a fest in downtown Hemingway, and the workshop went and performed there. And they did a unity dance in downtown Hemingway, and it was received by the people. As a matter of fact, 4 people became Baha'is as a result of that event. So we see that really it's a new day. The Institute itself now is too small for the work that it has to do. At the winter school that we just had in December, we had over 250 people who came. A large number of them were children and youth. Luckily, the newly acquired building for the radio station was not under renovation. We were able to hold some of the children's classes there now. Within a few months, within a month or so, we'll have our summer school, and we'll have to rent tents because we will not have the space for the number of participants that we anticipate coming. The newly acquired radio facility will help the radio to grow, to be able to produce more programs, to provide the adequate space for preparing those programs that we've not been able to do in the past. And we're very grateful for that. For the past 10 years, the radio station has been housed in a trailer that was really designed to be used only on a temporary basis, but that has been 10 years. So now within the last, in January, we acquired that building as well as an additional plot of land, and the station will certainly grow and to move into new services in the faith.
Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. Hold on, just a little while longer. I said everything will be alright.
I grew up in a Baptist church, all my life, and when I started playing, I was about 5 years old. And I grew up watching my father play. My father was a musician and grew up in the church, became a minister when I was 18, and I was a Baptist minister for 5 years. And I'm just so happy now that I sing about Christ for 23 years. Now I can sing about Baha'u'llah for the rest of my life. And it's just so wonderful that I got to witness this day. I never thought I would see this day.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a
We also have a beautiful lake that's a part of the property, wherein we will have a fish garden. Right now, it's used for recreation. The youth go down and they fish, and also it's a source of attracting seekers because many people in the area like to fish. And so we have some of the policemen or the magistrates in some of the towns. They come out because they know that we have a wonderful lake and it has big catfish in it, and so they want to come out and to fish. And that's another source of teaching. Everything is to teach the faith. Everything is to teach the faith. You know, America has a great spiritual destiny. But if we look at the history of the faith, we know that a spiritual destiny can be lost if we don't arise. And we are, and I'm sure all of you are determined that the destiny that has been given to us, given to this nation, we will fulfill. And right now that means finding those souls who are ready to become workers in the cause. And they're everywhere. You know, often we will think that the rich people are not ready to become Baha'is. We found that the wealthy, the educated, many of them, just like the illiterate or those who are not in those kind of status places, are ready and receptive to the message. So let's keep our own limitations out of it and go out and find those souls who are waiting now.